Still a little too loud. I'm going to go ahead and lower it a little more. Let's put this back up to like 45. Testing my voice with the in-game volume. Hey everyone. So I spent a lot of time with this before, and I thought my levels were good a few days ago when I recorded a few episodes of this, and it turns out that when I played the videos back to check their volume levels, I didn't realize I had the volume lowered in that application. And so when I went to check on the videos to see if I got any comments, and I heard myself screeching into the microphone basically because the levels were still wrong, but now in the opposite direction. That was so painful. I tried lowering the decibels for the next two parts. What parts are those? 53 and 54. It's still a little too loud, but they should be lower now. So I guess I could always try to redo all of those videos if it comes down to it. I'm babbling. So I'm testing my volume now. You guys are getting to hear me actually doing a little bit of testing work. So I'm going to cut the recording and see how things are coming out. Yep, sounds like these are coming out okay. I think I'm finally happy with the sound. Oh. That sucks, Tim. And just when you had enough time to record a few episodes in advance and the sound's messed up again. Oh, well, it's not as bad as part 51. Part 52 and 53 will still have me being a little louder than I like. Alright, everyone. I'm back. Hopefully the sound's coming out okay. Let's go ahead and... Oh! Right! This episode is just going to be me talking and doing some reading. There's not going to be any exploration in this episode, everyone. I want to read all those full M7s that we've been picking up, talk to the people in camp, and see how well we're doing. We can also report what we found, I guess, in the Institute of Nexus of Technology, and let them know that we upgraded the chip that we had in the hand that we picked up. I don't think I have anything new to sell. Oh, did I make anything off screen? I don't think so. I did remember to pick up a few more flashbangs when I was at Foundry, but nothing else has happened. So let's go and talk to the doctor and Seeger to start, and we'll let them know about the chip. We'll let Seeger translate these M7s we have, and then we'll read all those M7s. It will probably take an hour, everyone. So again, there won't be any combat, and this will be an excellent test of my voice volume as well, because we'll get to hear a lot of me talking in this episode. I am so sorry. It's so stupid frustrating, and just when I think I fix it, I make another mistake. When was the last time I'd saved the game? Technically, it looks like I could probably redo most of part 52 if it comes down to it. Well, let's do this first, and I'll append a little bit to the front of part 52 and see what you guys think when it comes to the volume. Asking your guys' opinion on what I should do. Alright, hey Seeger. He rubs his left eye and yawns. Oh, you're back. He takes a sip of coffee. Hey, tell me about Hexagon. Professor already told me a bit, but I'd like to hear more. He did? Okay. He shrugs. While this may be the capital of North Underrail, Hexagon is the capital of technology. It's like this microcosm of everything high-tech, a place where you can find pretty much every extreme thing, okay? So how did you end up in there? A friend of mine took me there. We needed some network equipment, and one of his acquaintances there had the best stuff. Hexagon's a pretty confusing place. It's like this tall tower with many floors, each one packed with narrow maze-like passages leading to all sorts of these extra places. Naturally, the place is home to all kinds of tech gangs and various factions. The Protectorate got no presence there. Nope. You gotta be careful where you tread and who you're dealing with, because if you're not, you might find yourself face to face with, I don't know, a cyborg mugger or a tech harvester. He makes a grimace. Usually I'd stay out of that place, but that friend, he knows his way around. I just kept my head down and followed. But then, after I was introduced to XR, I bought this living cube and... Go on. Forget I mentioned it. It's just some meaningless hexagonian slang. Forget about it, man. I like to know what XR is. No, forget I mentioned it. It's just a meaningless hexagonian slang. Not talking about it. Is that coffee you're drinking? This? Never seen coffee before? I have. He pauses, watching you while a pillar of smoke from the hot coffee pirouettes between you and him. With conversation in his eyes, he softly proceeds. You don't have any coffee beans here? Coffee beans? Wow. I'm sorry. I knew things were bad here, but this bad? Sit. Sit. But you have, like, hydroponics, right? You are capable of growing certain plants here. Then why no real coffee? I don't get it. My home station has hydroponics, but I haven't seen many elsewhere. Oh man, no one should live without good X coffee. You know, I got more here. He glances at the coffee maker on the other table. You want one? I like some coffee. Okay. Coffee maker's in my tent. I'm kind of busy with stuff here, so feel free to go there and grab yourself a flask or two, and leave something for me. How long do the tea flasks retain heat? Huh. He nods a few times. A long time. Enjoy your coffee, man. Excel. Hey, could you take a look at this for me? Okay. Done. Got something interesting for you. You can check it out on the PC in my tent. I'll leave you to your work, Seeger. Hey, Professor Oldfield. He moves his glasses and rubs his eyes and temples. Damn this migraine. Then he notices you. Ah, Gabriel. Tell me about the supercorporations. Security Agency, Bionic Institute, Nucleus Corporation, Transcendix, alongside Biocorp and NFT, they were the T6, the 6 supercorporations of the pre-descent times, the old world, if you prefer. Oh, can you tell me about the other 4 supercorporations? As far as it's known, in the years before the descent, the end of history as some old records call it, there were 6 supercorporations called multinational or transnational corporations, all members of the T6 group. Their supercorporations were, by the end, the most powerful political entities of the pre-descent world. They are Biocorp, very well known to us all, New Frontier Technologies, Nucleus Corporation, Bionic Institute, Transcendix, and Security Agency. Right, I forgot I was doing a voice for him. What is the T6 group exactly? At some point in pre-descent history, this group was formed in order for the supercorporations to collectively maintain, negotiate, and defend their interests primarily against nation-states, which were these political entities unified by wholly different factors than those of supercorporations. Nation-states. Well, Gabriel, in simple terms, a nation is an old concept wherein the political identity of a certain people matches their cultural identity. Take a group of people speaking the same language, sharing the same territory, origin, ethnicity, and mentality, and give them a consciousness of their political identity. Imagine all South Underrailers united under the same banner, so to speak, and working towards the same goals, and being comprised of people who are very much alike. Currently, there is no unity, but each station has its own interests and its own way of life. Could there be could there be nation stations? Goodness me, well, I won't say it can't be done, but nation-states were large communities spanning great territories. Stations are small, minuscule by comparison. The word nation simply implies something greater than that, at least to me. Of course, as with many other things in life, how nations define themselves or other nations was often a matter of debate, disagreement, or violent conflicts. But that's a whole different topic. Any new discoveries? Right now, we have a very good idea of how the Lemurians lived. Okay, I already know that. Thank you, Doctor. I have a report to make about the Nexus of Technology, a large research center. After listening to you with great interest, only occasionally interjecting with various exclamations of surprise and awe, The professor shares his thoughts. Goodness me! This is marvelous indeed. Your descent down the elevator shaft, turning on the power, exploring the floors, all of it, truly incredible. And the fact that you managed to upgrade your microchip implant's clearance level with that... What did you say the device was called? Microchip encoder. Ah, yes, microchip encoder. That clearance level will certainly prove to be a great use. Certainly. Excellent work, Gabriel. See Marcus about your well-earned bonus. I'll contact you as soon as I have a new task for you. BioCorp seems to have left most of the facilities untouched. How come they never entered them? Not even after so much time. They had 2 centuries to do so. Well, there are no records what could give us a clear answer. But as you've seen yourself, their usage of mutagen to eliminate Lotaerians is a very good reason why they didn't immediately enter them. Now after that, who knows? The Lotaerians were the last enemies of the BioCorp Undernavy. After that, it was disbanded, under quite turbulent and unclear circumstances, and its assets were transferred to BioCorp Armed Forces. Some of it later recycled, stored away, you know how it goes. Following that, we can only speculate. Maybe these circumstances have simply led to Lotaeria not being as important, or important enough. Maybe it was forgotten altogether. Maybe it was the mutagenic contamination that prevented it. Or perhaps it all came down to some higher interests, or more precisely, dense interests that we can't possibly perceive. Okay, goodbye, Professor. So I agree with the Professor, and we're going to talk a little bit about spoilers here. Oh, did I go in the store? Hello? Secret cabinets. 93 level boot spring. Could have been pirates hanging out there. There wasn't. So I think that it's because of the shadowlith that BioCorp decided not to come down here. In fact, I suspect that was the whole reason why BioCorp attacked the facility in the first place. We'll find out about that device later, and we'll also find out maybe about why BioCorp would be interested in not going down there to investigate it as well. Alright, we're allowed to access the coffee maker now. We'll take a single coffee. Okay, so let's start reading about the recovered NPC data. We have tons of this stuff, as you can see, to read about. Let's go ahead and get started. So, let's read what Phil Bridges, the gentleman's dead hand or arm, end arm that we're carrying around with us, let's find out about what his last thoughts, or what his thoughts were at some point during his life. Phil Bridges, personal log, LE 1310-122. Man taught himself how to use tools, how to make clothes, how to tame fire, and how to express himself through art. Man raised cities, built machines, traversed the world, rose above the clouds, conquered the sky, and invaded the beyond. Man envisioned the future and brought it to the present. Man is, without a shadow of a doubt, intelligent. But when some men decide to encase a power substation unit in a heavy Ovliot stone that can only be handled by a strawman or some other machinery before a technician like me can perform maintenance, one begins to question this intellectually technological evolution of mankind. Maybe it's not man. Mankind possesses vast, striving intellect, but only certain men. It is those men who drive civilizations forward. For one takes a perfectly functional, reliable Saturn generator design, decides to decorate it as to the Lotaerian style. One should perhaps apply some common sense and take practicality into consideration. So all these full M7s are going to have missing text in them. I will simply pause my reading for like 1 second or so and then continue with the sentence. Using more manual materials, designing the unit, man or two could open it on their own with simple tools. Because today I had to wait for 3 hours for a strawman to finally become available so that I could begin working. 3 hours. Other corporations takes on the unit less visually attractive than ours, certainly. Some are sinfully repulsive, even. They are all made to be as easy to use and maintain as possible. Always be of primary concern. Even the earlier NFT designs followed the same sensible principle. Current models have a front panel, which gives access to most components, but in order to reach the generator core, I need the help of a pair of inhuman hands. And when a straw man in possession of such is unavailable, wait for 3 hours. Of course, these kinds of delays are unacceptable, yet there is nothing any one of us is able to do about it. The Lumerian style, forefront of everything, present in architecture, clothing, vehicle and vessel design, and even the simplest items like box containers, crates, and nail clippers. Everything must be pleasing to the eye, even if it doesn't need to be. It is wonderful in one sense, for art, expression, stimulus for the human intellect and emotion, pure and limitless. Visual art of the highest kind. Exposed female breasts of the most well-endowed kind. As I've already stated, just an expression of the human mind, male mind. Visual elements combined contribute to the perception that one is truly living in an ideal environment. Known and scientifically proven that an environment pleasing to the senses, highly positive effect on the human well-being, until one has to perform certain kinds of tasks, that is, in which case the beauty quickly turns into beast. For longer than 3 hours, must add. Infuriating. First time I've had this happen to me. I have work to do and a specific amount of time allotted to do it. Complications like this are not only an unneeded setback, quite distressing. Just the other day I performed repairs on the medication synthesis unit at the Nexus. Awful application of decocentric design made me spend many frustrating hours, frustrating problems. Not the difficulty of a task that is the problem in and of itself, but it is the difficulty that could have been avoided entirely had the designer thought of something other than just appearance. However, I suppose the real truth here is that the strongmen are being transferred back and forth in order to prepare our defenses. The problems I described never occurred earlier since strongmen were always available. The designer made the units with servants in mind, that they would always aid us. Should he be blamed for it, which is what I'm doing now? Oh, should he be blamed for it, which is what I'm doing now? No. I should not be blaming him. Instead, I should be blaming myself for giving in under the pressure of impending war that could possibly mean our doom. Alright, Phil, interesting. So he sounds like any normal tech guy or computer programmer. Frustrated when the design of something doesn't allow him to get the job done. Let's read about Palmer George. This was the M7 that Seeger already had from the island we are standing in. LE 1710-122. Dear Father, right now, as I am writing this, the Biocorp Navy is clearing the Arc Tunnel, which we had collapsed in order to slow down their advance. Sadly, they are doing so with great efficiency. Floater mines will buy us some more time, but that time will quickly run out. Our gliders are patrolling the island perimeter, fellow security marines are boarding the carriers, plasma cannons are being blank charged and aimed at the Ark. Servants have been brought to help set up all of our static defenses, and Naga... Me? I'm sitting in my bunker with my dear friends and comrades in arms, Clive Mitchell and Angus Hall, waiting for the looming battle. I've already written to Julia, and I've already written to Mom, and now I'm writing to you. But you are the most difficult one to write to for a simple reason. I know you will not be reading this. Yet I still need to type in these words, because if I don't do it now, I might not get another chance. You were never a man of patience, so I'll keep it as brief as possible. What we're doing today is defending our future. Just like you, Father, I too have passed security proud. And I know that if you were able to, you too would be with me in this bunker, blaster in hand and teeth ready to chew through each and every Biocorp soldier's neck if he need be. We'd be side by side, one... But you're not here. You are not alive anymore. Despite 15 years of absence, there is still a way for us to fight together. It's through me, because I am you. I used to think that if it weren't for family pictures, videos, or holograms, I'd forget you. Forget how you looked and sounded and behaved. But now I know I need only look in the mirror, and I'd see you every time. Father, the time is nigh. Join me in battle, and let us show those wicked fiends. It sounds like, from what we gathered back at the boat that we saw, that at the first strike wave that attempted to attack them was destroyed by the cave-in and or annihilated when they showed up here to fight after whoever survived the cave-in survived. But the next Biocorp group was powerful enough to destroy the remnants of NFT. Okay, let's read about... Oh, we'll read about the Crimson Medical Horticulture Center. Let's read what Osborne Benedict has to say. Benedict Osborne, A Crimson Meadow, article for the Lumerian Intelligencer. The world whence we came used to be green, not because of toxic chemicals or overly out stone architecture, but because of plants. Freely and wildly, and they covered the surface of the old world. The plants got everything they needed from a luminous celestial called the sun. Some of them stayed close to the ground, some twined up taller plants, clinging to them for dear life, whereas those tall and firm ones rose, sometimes lived for centuries. These ones, trees, we don't see anymore. Their size or shape, all of them needed the sun. The sun still exists, but its light no longer reaches us. Because of that, no plants grow underground, but species of fungi not need the sun to grow. We will be not talking about fungi in this article, but only plants. Cannot make our own sun per se. We can, however, substitute it. One needs only light. There are differences in what kind of light it is, of course. For instance, strong UV light causes the plants to create antioxidants in order to protect themselves from photo damage, and these antioxidants increase their nutritional value. Colored light, say red, performs far worse than blue light at maximizing photosynthesis because the waves we perceive as being red lie on the lower frequency spectrum of visible light, and therefore carry less energy. Let us start with simple white light, which is simple to produce anyway. UV light. We have the hydrothermal vents to drive our generators and create power, and we can use that power to create light. We have the sun now. But what about the plants? There are many kinds of plants. Some plants are called streptophata, and these are the land plants, the most common. Also things like chlorophyta, and these are green algae. There are others. Some have seeds which carry the plant's embryos and food, but some don't, and instead have mobile gametes that can fuse together far away from the parental plants, whereas others have spores which do not fuse at all to create new plants. To grow plants in Lumeria, we brought plenty of seeds, gametes, and spores of many different species, all sealed to last for centuries. We have our sun and our plants. What else do we need? Some need ground for minerals. We have that. Oxygen as well. Plants need water, and those that did not live near water needed rain, water falling from above. Large masses of condensed water vapor floating high above. We will make our rain if that is what we have everything now, and plants are growing. Do you see a problem? No? In the old era, living creatures, or at least the majority of them, did not need our care to survive. In fact, plants are older than humans, as are many other living existed before us. We, as Lumerians, as New Frontier technology, we mustn't forget that our mission, life possible where it shouldn't be. Environment thrive alongside us. We can grow plants in our closed gardens and our hydroponic chambers, but that is not environment. Environment is outdoors, as the old saying. Team and I were responsible for creating plants that could flourish in the dim caverns, that do not need our sun and our rain, or us at all. First we looked at their color. Not all were green, but most of them were, at least when it came to the parts of the plant in which photosynthesis occurred. Why? Because the sun provided too much energy, so the plants absorbed it all, got burned. That is why no plants are black, which would be their color if they had the ability to absorb all wavelengths. So the plants are green because they absorb blue and red light, reflecting what is left of the visible light spectrum. Green. Chlorophyll is the actual pigment which allows photosynthesis in these kinds of plants, and it has proven to be the most successful solution in... but not here. Here we need that piece of the light spectrum. We have tried creating these black plants at first, but they had a problem even in limited light. Fine normally, but shining even moderately bright light on them would cause them death. That was not a permanent solution. Purple plants absorbed too little light because they had normally lived in areas that offered them too much of it. Then we took a look at some of the non-green plants and why the algae that live deep in the massive bodies of water, oceans, were red because red light didn't penetrate far enough through the water. So the algae absorbed everything but red light, which essentially means it got reflected back. Genetically modified through numerous iterations, many species of existing plants to have red pigment. This proved to be the thing we were looking for, the perfect balance of color for our world. 2 species of water reeds and 3 of grasses were among our first successes. The water reeds first spread beyond the range of our light towers and took on a life of their own. Then the grasses. We are constantly adapting new species to dimness, giving them the green that they had been giving to us. But soon, they will be able to adapt on their own. One day, we might... trees. This is not the end of our work. New challenges await us, and there is so much to be done. But the most important thing is that we have managed to at least create a crimson meadow that in this gloomy underworld. Not our meadow, no. For we want it to exist even if we cease to. Interesting, and it did. Thankfully, there was nothing harmful about it itself, it was just a locust living inside of it. Let's read about Asmund Jarl from the Crimson Medical Animal Enclosure. Genetically Engineered Animals, article for the Lotaeri Intelligencer. Last month's edition featured a wonderful article on the cultivation of genetic engineering of plants, Crimson Meadows, by Benedict Osborne. This article prompted me to write my own as a follow-up. The basic philosophy of ecological development that NFT and by extension us, Lumerians, have undertaken. The difference is that I will be focusing primarily on the animal kingdom. Natural environment is a term denotes an environment that encompasses all living and non-living things that occur and interact naturally, without intervention from outside forces, like human beings. Lumeria used to be a fully natural environment before our arrival, with living inhabitants which were, while far more diverse than our foreparents had anticipated, still much less numerous and less varied, the world from which they came. Fish and fungi were abundant, and arthropods and smaller mammals, but large terrestrial animals and plants in general, on which Osborne elaborated, were, barring a few exceptions, a thing of the past. It was a healthy ecosystem, no question, but it was clear then and clearer now that there was room for improvement. For it is our duty to develop the environments which we inhabit, to populate them with life, not only for human. Also, our duty to cease our intervention as soon as we've aided nature sufficiently, because a healthy ecosystem must be self-sustaining. We, the Lumerian Agricultural Committee, a long-term plan for the rejuvenation of the animal kingdom of Lumeria. The basic premise, through means of genetic engineering, a fixed number of selected species, which would then be released into the wild and continue evolving through natural mechanisms, as opposed to hitherto artificial ones. The base animal families would then further evolve and branch out into other species. The fundamental idea was to introduce into the environment all elements deemed necessary. The plan also included an important clause: reduction of reproductive cycles in all engineering species of animals as much as possible, while also engineering their DNA in such a way as to boost mutation rates in a controlled manner, and within certain limits, for great care must be taken when speed up the whole process greatly. I will now elaborate further on both of these important points. The reproductive cycle is, essentially, What determines the speed at which evolution occurs, since only through conception, through merging of gametes, reproductive cells, and therefore their chromosomes, do we get an actual new organism with a different set of traits. But that alone isn't sufficient. We already have species with incredibly short reproductive cycles, like small insects, and they do not differentiate very fast. Environmental factors are also important, but that means we've natural selection. There is an important step before we can reach any of that: mutation rate. Mutation is the primary driving force behind evolution. Natural or artificial selection do not create new species, they merely select them, determine whether organisms survive and reproduce. Mutation is what causes changes in the cell's DNA, and these changes could, if not, I can't pronounce this, deleterious, result in a healthy creature. Different traits. Mutations can arise in many different ways, from radiation or chemical damage, erroneous DNA repair, but these somatic or acquired mutations do not necessarily become hereditary mutations, or also called germline mutations, and can be deleterious to a living creature, giving rise to diseases such as cancer or... Mutation rates differ between species, as well as between different regions of the genome. Therefore, task our genetic engineers is to modify the base family's DNA as to fine-tune the mutation rates. Controlled hypermutation. Specific segments of the genome to increase the probability for mutations which are more likely to benefit the creatures, increasing their heritability, and decreasing the probability for deleterious mutations to occur. This is important. Faster reproduction of animals more susceptible to mutations work exponentially to their benefit. Natural selection will take over from that point. Life will expand and diversify faster than it ever could. Planned stabilization of mutation rates after number of generations. Several enclosures have been constructed so far. Contain the animals and monitor their progress. One of which is Animal Enclosure 3, near Crimson Meadow Horticulture Center. Office I'm sitting right now and writing this soon-to-be article. Through my window, I see a herd of blubberous bonovoids grazing on juicy red grass. Soon, these majestic creatures will become the first of our artificially evolved animals to be released. In 10 years, once vegetation spreads further and more species become introduced into the wilderness, this caravan will be teeming with life, richer than ever. I think those were the buffalo or bovines? I forget what they're called now, but they are found with the natives, if I recall correctly. Alright, let's read Mark Bright next, and his Fold M7 from the Nexus of Technology. Hydrothermal Vents article for the Lemurian Intelligencer. The existence of hydrothermal vents had been known to humanity for many years before the end of the Old Era, and while they were well studied and the mechanisms by which they operate well understood at the time, harnessing difficult challenge and would happen only in the years just before the descent. These vents, fissures in the planet's surface that issue geothermically heated water, and are primarily found deep below the ocean's surface in regions where tectonic plates spread from one another. With the average depth being just over 2 kilometers, it is clear that the path to exploitation of these rich sources is one laid with some quite imposing obstacles. In addition, some of the other, more effective ways of producing energy made pursuing hydrothermal vents as valid energy sources a rather costly and inferior option during the early 21st century of the Old Era. But the world was changing rapidly in these deleterious times of human existence. But the future was costly. The exploitation of the fossil fuels itself fueled political avarice, and extermination of millions of most brutal wars the world. For if food comes before morality, so do hydrocarbon energy sources. The reason, their finiteness, and the growing hunger of a modern society that needed to be sated with exponentially more energy. Thus, more and more political entities, be it countries or supercorporations, were forced to turn to renewable. New frontier technologies made it their mission to rely only on renewable energy sources: sunlight, wind, waves, geothermal heat if available. It was our saving grace that we had developed these technologies to a high degree before the staring into the eyes of extinction otherwise. One successful NFT project was Lotaeri, the world we live in, and it is the inquiry into the exploitation of geothermal sources that has made Lotaeri possible. In the chaotic final days of the old era, a global investigation has been performed by New Frontier Technologies in order to find suitable locations. Tenebrous Dome Lake. Abundant gashes in the lake bed, the reflective seclusion, relative meaning that Underrail is still not too far away, spaciousness of the caverns, and thriving underwater and terrestrial life all further attributed to richness in life is precisely the product of these hydrothermal vents, because the energy and precipitation of the minerals from the vents support the chemosynthetic bacteria, which are in turn being consumed by the larger organisms, and the food chain continues from there. The relative small depth of the vents made harnessing energy from them a simple task for NFT. So sensibly, all facilities were, and still are, being powered by hydrothermal energy. This natural decentralization of power sources, each facility had to have its own generator. Granted, LIT4U AVAC transformers have been installed to transfer energy between facilities in the case of emergency, but these ended up being used rarely, the most notable case being the power failure at Lemco in LE21. The generators that were used were LX-SCRC-70U supercritical Kestrel cycle generators, designed specifically, installed at the base of each facility, atop their respective hydrothermal vent. Each facility is equipped with the power substation units, similar devices based on the old Setter power generators. That must be what I saw, which I thought was like a water pump. These units are directly connected to primary generators, performing a variety of functions such as regulating distribution, electrical current conversion, and backup generation. Reason why the Setter design was used as the basis for the unit. The vents themselves range between 200 and 400 degrees centigrade in temperature, with some of them providing in excess of 50 megawatt, is that right? 50 MWT. It sounds like megawatt, but I don't know what tons? I think that's right. Whereas the generators themselves were designed to last for more than 200 years. The estimate for dry versions, aka non-underwater, is about 250 years, which convincingly relates to how well designed and coded the U versions have become at that particular time. I will conclude my article here, as I have already mentioned. There are more reasons why hydrothermal vents have proven useful to us. The minerals being precipitated or collected and processed, the biota being supported by the vents, and the tall smokers and corals make up for a stunning landscape which grasps the viewer and doesn't let go. I will leave the elaboration of these, however, to someone more competent in the respective subjects. And the last one, by Lisa Jackson. Lisa H. Jackson. First draft of Naga Protectors. No, think of a better name. Article for the Lemurian Intelligencer. Today, they have been finally unveiled, the Naga Protectors, named after the mythical creatures of the old era, pinnacle of Lemurian engineering, embodiment of the Lemurian style. But first, I would like to start at the very beginning. Note, expand the intro a little bit. Even before the descent, the 6 supercorporations have always had different paradigms when it came to robotic design and development, often with completely opposite goals. First example, BioCorp viewed robots as nothing more than mere autonomous tools, and so they designed them accordingly. They were limited to little or no interactivity with humans. They were to be fairly simple in shape, rather cubic for the most part, as to facilitate mass production, lack any and all decorative features, with abilities strictly confined to the domain of their work. Some were made for security, some for heavy lifting, some were modular. All of them were made as one would make a tool. Needed nothing more. Whereas Bionic Institute viewed things a bit differently. Their ultimate goal was to merge humans and machines, flesh and metal, grown and manufactured. was natural that their robots viewed more than just simple tools to be used and discarded once they were no longer useful. Considered members of their society, equal, as much as possible at least, to those who made them. They were being developed to be intelligent and sentient, to think, feel, and dream. Love, even. And where artificial met its limits, natural was used to augment it, and vice versa. That was how they viewed it. That was how they did it. The exact opposite of Biocorp. Note, use synonyms for viewed. It repeats a lot. Next example, security agency. They built machines for war. Innumerable series of warbots have been produced and perfected, some even manufactured by other greater warbots that were designed to continuously output new machines, no matter the theater or threat they were in. Range from the cheapest and simplest, like DD drones or RX-5s, the cybernetic foot soldiers. Largest and most destructive, the dreaded orbital devastators, capable of eradicating their enemies from the edge of the thermosphere with precision and mercilessness no living creature could ever achieve. Responsible for millions of deaths alone. Built to obey and destroy, and they were used by the SA themselves, but also by anyone who could afford them. Note, add, warbots never had markings. New frontier technology. We made ours to construct, to raise, to manufacture, to terraform, to serve not only their owners, but humanity and the environment. Wherever humanity could and would go, appropriate robots could and would follow. The Earth's orbit. The deepest point in the ocean. Isolated underground cavern. We even developed our robots for the environment. The basic paradigm remained unchanged wherever we are. This paragraph is a lot shorter than others, but I suppose an FT does not need much explanation. So we come to Lotaeri. Our needs here in this underground world are completely different than they were in the place where we could look at the sky and the sun. Absence of the sun made a huge impact on Lotaerian style. Talking about is this. We had the technology to survive and change the world, but there was nothing beautiful down here. It's all water and dirt, darkness, and no matter terraform, even if we one day surround ourselves with grass and forests, would never replace the lack of a shining sun. The oldest among us still remember it, but even those who have never seen it do miss it. Note, shorten this section, the sun part is a bit rambly. Turned to water motives. Sensibly, it was the primary source of inspiration. Absence of the sun. The distinct Lotaerian style developed quickly. Among other things, gave birth to the servants. Based upon long-standing helpers which literally built our facilities, the servants were improved in all aspects. Note, remove the sun part and merge it with the previous paragraph. Could still use a few more lines on Lotaerian style, however. Functionality-wise, they were adapted to operating in this specific environment. Just a few examples. Solar cells for emergency powering were removed for obvious reasons. Electric actuators were upgraded from A900 to LA910WP, waterproof version designed for Lotaeri. Sensitive components were as well replaced with more suitable variants. AI has been upgraded to allow the servants to swim and perform other actions, while partially or fully submerged. Note, don't need any more examples, already elaborated on that in the previous article. Major changes was the way servants are being stored. Instead of being stacked in tubular pods and moved out of sight, servants would retire to Ovliat pedestals, which would recharge them. Blend in with the other purely decorative statues. Pedestals charge them by the means of electromagnetic induction, so the top surface is nice and flat. Note, nice and flat. Having servants rest in the hallways was an added benefit to them being more easily available. Their idleness served aesthetic purposes, as the Ovliat stone proved too heavy for the servants. A special kind of coating was developed to give their skin an appearance indistinguishable from Ovliat. This coating is now reducing the use of Ovliat globally, but that is a wholly different subject. Note, should add in there somewhere that the coating is called OC40. For years, these improved helpers, the servants, have served us well. No, should rephrase that. It sounds silly to me reading it now. Community thrived. Our technology became more advanced. Cannot forever remain in isolation, and that someday, all that we have built here will come under severe threat. We are not security agency, but we should not be defenseless. The recent militarization program of the Joint Security Command. Terrestrial Guardian robot equipped with heavy weaponry, but would also serve an aesthetic function similar to that of the servants. The same pedestal-based recharging and type of surface coating were to be used, with perhaps slight modifications. That's where the similarities end. For the Mega Protectors are not here to do heavy lifting or to prepare our meals. Kill our opponents. The new LZZ-2 fusion cannons, which proved easily surpasses any other weapon we possess when it comes to raw destructive power. Capable of eliminating pretty much all targets short of the T-12 rated armored vehicles in a single hit. What else is more fitting to carry such a weapon than the largest of our servants, or should I say, protectors? The cannons are installed inside the protector's mouth and are completely concealed until engagement. The first 2 units unveiled today have been posted in the Nexus of Technology's courtyard, and we will be seeing more and more. They will be sitting atop their pedestals so that we may marvel at their beauty, but when danger finally draws near, rise and glow, so that we may marvel at their might. Final note, the whole text is too long. I should have to cut something or split this into 2 articles, or else Alexander will never accept this. Okay everyone, that'll do it. I'm gonna go check on my volume. It took about an hour too to do, I think. And yeah, when we come back, well, we're off to, I think, here, which I believe is Lotaeri Health Center, which we must go to next, I believe. So I'll see you guys then. Take care everyone, and thanks for watching.